Hey guys, welcome back to Laurence McKenna on LFC channel, where it's Everton versus Liverpool, a postponed fixture. A fixture that would you have liked earlier in the season or would you like now? Well, you don't get your choice, but if we'd have played them a little bit earlier in the season, maybe we wouldn't have felt as confident, but maybe also they wouldn't have felt as confident. It wasn't really that we were being rocked or anything, it was just more that we had a lot of games back to back to back, and coming out of that period, well, we just needed to recover a little bit. In hindsight, it was a good week for us to recover, and actually Liverpool now badly need to manage a lot of these games coming into this point in the season where the intensity is only going to go up, and this is going to be one of those games. The last game ever at Goodison Park. Narrative is there. What can we do to ruin their parade? What can they do to rain on ours? What is it that Liverpool are going to come away with, especially after last year, where it was a bit of a refereeing disaster class, but also Liverpool looked like the occasion, frankly, got to them a little bit, and we need to acknowledge that. I think there were times where emotionally things just got to Liverpool last year, but are they the same Liverpool? Are they, despite being the same squad, the same animal as the beasts that they were last year? And that, I think, is a good question here. We're going to see a big test of Arne Slot's gumption, especially considering that if we'd have played them a couple of months ago, we wouldn't have been playing a David Moyes side. This time we're going to be playing very much a David Moyes team, and a team who's actually in relatively good form more recently. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I know everyone talks about the derby, all form goes out the window, etc., etc. It doesn't really matter what they've done against us recently. Those are very different shades of the team, should we say. This David Moyes side are really putting a relatively good run together, and they've got a spine that they're putting back together. The last couple of games, they've had some very different men of the match. Obviously, they've Beto up front, they've had Idrissa Gueye in midfield, and then they've also had a couple of performances where you're like, right, attacking-wise, they've looked a lot better, but also at the back, they've had a couple of really good centre-back performances. But that's because they have two great centre-backs. So it kind of brings up a couple of questions in the starting lineup for us. Who's going to be best to go one-on-one with these guys after the big rest on the weekend and the disappointment of the Plymouth game? What is it that we can come back with? Can we make a statement again in the league, especially with the amount of people questioning us? And who is it that is in that second 11 that we played against Plymouth that we could potentially bring on the field against someone like Everton, either to lock a game down or and see a game out, or to potentially get us some points? Because over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of nil-nils, and there have been a lot of frustrating, narrative-driven fixtures in there. I don't want that nil-nil. A nil-nil feels as good as a loss in this current Premier League climate, and with Arsenal looking to chase us down, you really want to keep that pressure up, especially considering that earlier on in the season, a lot of people would have expected us to beat Everton. A lot of people would be expecting to beat Everton in that top four when they would play them. And really, it's about going match for match with the opposition. It's not just about beating them, it's about beating the teams that they can beat. And Arsenal very much can beat this team. But Everton will still have a say in this title race, especially if I look through some of their fixtures to come up, right? Like I was just looking through Everton's fixtures. If you look at Everton's matches to come, they've got Liverpool, they've got Arsenal, again, at home, last one of the season there. They've also got City in there as well. Is Chelsea in there? They've got Chelsea away, and that's it, really. So there are still some big fixtures to come, and with them being the last ones at Goodison, despite them playing Chelsea away, it's going to be interesting to see how David Moyes plays a lot of these. It's going to be interesting because he's going to obviously put a little bit more emphasis on the Liverpool game than he is on the Arsenal or the Man City game, mainly because those two teams don't necessarily have a particularly close rivalry, even though City actually have pretty poor form against Everton. At one point, Everton were kind of a bogey team for Man City. I don't really know that much about Arsenal. I know that obviously they don't like playing tough sides historically, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything in the current climate. And I also think that they look like a particularly determined team at the moment, especially in the Premier League cup games aside. I don't really count cup games as a particularly good barometer as to where a team are at, shall we say. Anyway, this Liverpool team at the moment, I think we're looking to build up a head of steam now. And it was kind of disappointing, the Plymouth game on the weekend, but also I think the real disappointment about the Plymouth game on the weekend was not so much conceding the goal. That is often to be kind of, that's fine, you can let that go. It's the poor performance, should we say, in the front line. The fact that Diaz looked so flat, the fact that Chiesa got very low ratings. I actually thought Chiesa had a relatively good game, but he got very low ratings. And I've got to say, like, obviously we wouldn't probably play Chiesa against Everton. It's a particularly physical game anyway. We'd probably want to start with the front three of Gakpo, Diaz and Salah. A couple of people talking about using Nunez in there. I think in a derby, especially when there's a lot of pressure on the team, sometimes it's better to remove your young players from those kind of environments. Sometimes it's better to not have Nunez in that. If you want to light the touch paper, if you want to put us in a situation where maybe we are putting, ourselves under a little bit of pressure, kind of, betting on us, then sure, put Darwin Nunez in there. But I actually love him as an impact player right now, and I saw that against Brentford. I've seen that against other teams, obviously Newcastle last season, a couple of other teams this year. And frankly, I think it's going to be a tricky midfield battle, one which, Beto is probably going to be going up against Ibrahim Konate and Virgil van Dijk. Alisson's going to be back in goal. We'll probably start Bradley at right back. Left back, I would probably put Andy Robertson in there, just purely based on recent form, but also Andy Robertson in a derby. I think you play our classic midfield three this season of Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai. I don't think you change much more than that. With Alexander-Arnold returning from injury, I don't see the point in risking him for this one. I see that we can pick off their back line. I see him as a much better impact sub. I see him as someone who can change the path of the ball during the game and someone who can change the way that we move the ball around at the back in order to cut through Everton if we need to. But I also don't see any point in starting someone like Curtis Jones, who's again still returning from injury, probably doesn't need all the knocks in midfield and doesn't need the physicality there. Liverpool, on the other hand, also do need to get things ticking again after that, but after the Plymouth game. So there's a muff in there at the moment. After the Plymouth game. And frankly, I think we should be playing our strongest starting 11. And for me, that includes Luis Diaz, that includes Szoboszlai, that includes that energy. We should be putting their centre-backs under pressure. We should be trying to not compete with them for headers if it's Tarkowski. And who else did we wanted their other guy, Branthwaite. And I think we should be trying to sneak in there rather than actually, go face-to-face, head-to-head with them. That's just not going to be an effective way of playing that back line. And frankly, when we've been spamming crosses a bit more recently, it's not really been effective. It's not that obviously I get the second ball off the crosses and all those kind of things, putting the team under pressure, pegging them back, that all makes sense to me. But if it isn't effective against Plymouth, which I get why it wasn't effective against Plymouth, then I would rather change that against Everton. I'd rather go back to what we know. There is a temptation, of course, to start Diogo Jota in this game with Diaz out on the left and then Salah through the middle. The only reason I wouldn't do that, and the only reason, first of all, pretty poor game on the weekend from him, which I think shows why he isn't playing today, but also, because he played, he therefore probably won't play. We need to get him back to full fitness. I don't want to see him get more knocks. We will need him in more of a run-in, and I don't see the point in risking him when we've got Diaz, Nunez, Gakpo, Salah as any kind of combo up there, and when we will be playing with the energy and the graft of everything that we've got in Dominic Szoboszlai. So I think all of that is really important to acknowledge. And I think we've also got a lot of strength off the bench. I want to see Harvey Elliott come on later in the game. I want to see a Curtis Jones come on later in the game. I want to see Darwin. I want to see, there are plenty of players who I think, God, I'd love to see him come on. But I don't think I don't think we're going to have the latitude to play a human victory cigar in these kind of games. I don't think that's going to be this kind of setup. And the main reason being, I think Everton are going to make it really uncomfortable. I think they're going to get physical. I think they're going to get quite nasty. I think they're going to try and level the playing field as best they can. They're going to cut off the passing lanes that we love to use in towards the midfield and then back out by plugging that area. You'll see Ashley Cole, again, trying to get a lockdown performance on Mo Salah and frustrating him. And on the other side, you're going to see Cody Gakpo looking to cut in and get that shot in there. It's going to be a lot of Salah isolating Young, trying to get past him and then chipping across in and us having to ghost in rather than compete with the two centre-backs. So this is a very different Everton side, and they've locked some really good teams down recently. I will remind you, in recent games, that Everton have not conceded against Leicester, not conceded against Brighton, they've conceded against Spurs, and they've conceded against Villa, not conceded against Peterborough. They only conceded one against a very rampant Bournemouth team right now. Then they also conceded two recently. They locked Man City down at one point. They also locked Chelsea, Arsenal. There have been a number of teams that have played them this year where they've had an impact on the game and they've had a say on the title race, and that was before things were even turning around there. So again, it's not as if confidence is an all-time low for them. I think there are definitely reasons why we should be thinking we want to pick off some of their more weaker elements, should we say, but I also think we should be looking to reduce what Everton can do. And to do that, we have to be at our sharpest. And in the last game that we played our best team, I think I really enjoyed the sharpness. I enjoyed watching us, especially against, that Spurs side, but also against the Bournemouth team as well. For me, there were two comprehensive performances. And I want to see a comprehensive performance against an Everton side. Trent played in one of those. And then the other one, who played against, was it Trent who played? Bradley played in the other. So actually, I don't think it's down to our right back. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Join me later on for a review of the game. And if you're going to be in the Discord, I'll be chatting in there during the match. I'll chat to you guys in a little while. Much love. Bye.